Hello and welcome to this video on dealing with aphids on houseplants. So what exactly are aphids? Aphids are a small insect that could be green, red, or black, and they live by sucking on the sugary sap the plants produce during photosynthesis. So this sap normally rushes around the phloem, which is kind of like the internal plumbing system for plants. So a really good way to think of aphids is kind of like the plant version of mosquitoes. So once they're done sucking out the life juices of the plant, they poop out a sugary substance called honeydew, which can be formed by ants, which is incredible. So how do they get on your plant? Aphids can fly through the window because some aphids have wings, but more commonly, they hitchhike on plants that you bring into the house. And this is why it's really good to quarantine your plants in an ideal world, but sometimes you don't. So how can you spot them? One of the first things that you can notice is a sticky residue on the leaves, and this is honeydew, which is aphid poop, and this honeydew can be colonized by a sooty mold, so that can mean you have a fungal and a pest problem, which isn't the greatest. There are also white skin castings, so as the aphids grow up, they shed their old skin and they leave it on the plant, and when you have enough aphids, you can visibly see these skin castings. Lastly, there's the actual aphids. They usually congregate on the tips, the growing tips of the plant, and that leads to weak, unusual looking and stunted growth. And clearly this is probably not what you want, so how do you treat them? Firstly, change into casual clothing that you can immediately take off when you're done and put on the washing machine to avoid cross-contamination. You want to treat them as soon as you see any signs. It's not something you want to wait for. My preferred method is using neem oil. So I'm going to give you quite a general recipe, and the recipe is mostly water, a few big dollops of neem oil, and a couple of small drops of dish soap. And I know that means basically nothing, but through the magic of video, you can see what I'm talking about. And the consistency that you want to go for is a consistency quite similar to this yellowy, fully emulsified substance. So emulsified just means mixed, and that's what the dish soap is for, to mix everything together, because typically water and oil don't mix. You want to use this immediately because it cannot be stored. Once you've mixed it up, you want to take all of the plants in the vicinity of the plant that is infected and the infected plant and bring it somewhere you don't mind to getting wet. So I normally do it in the bathtub, and you want to spray liberally. And while I'm doing that, I'm just going to explain how neem oil works. So neem oil works primarily in two ways. So on contact, it suffocates the bugs by coating their skin in the fatty oil, and most bugs breathe through their skin, so if it's covered in a thick residue, they can't breathe. Secondly, it's absorbed by the plant, so once the bugs which are left, the ones that went suffocated, they continue to suck out the life juices. This life juice is now mixed with neem oil, and this causes the bugs to have less of an appetite. So the reason it needs to be done repeatedly is because it has very little effect on eggs, so you need to give the bugs the time to go through their life cycle. So the eggs that you have need to hatch and suck on this fluid, but keeping it topped up can be quite helpful in eradicating it. Bear in mind, if you're pregnant, trying to get pregnant, or breastfeeding, you want to do your own research before you engage the use of neem oil. When you're cleaning your plants, you want to do it all over. So spray underneath, around, concentrate on where they are, concentrate on where they're not. Spray the pots, the soil, and the roots all liberally. Anywhere that can be hiding, you want to clean. On that same note, you want to clean the cash pots or the decorative pots that they were in. I clean the cash pots or the decorative pots with warm soapy water, and the soap is just regular dish soap. And I make sure to wash them thoroughly all over, inside, around, behind, everywhere, at least 3 times. And I put them out to dry far away from any other houseplants in case of cross-contamination. It's very important to make sure that the whole environment the plant is being interacting with is cleaned. So, you also need to clean the area. I just use a normal household bleach and I spray it on the surface, the window, everywhere, and clean thoroughly. This whole process can be done once a week. This gives the plants time to absorb the neem oil and to recover. While the neem oil is drying onto the plant, you want to make sure that it's away from direct sunlight because that can lead to scorching of the leaves. So I normally leave them in the bathtub while they're drying, typically overnight. Last little things to note: keeping your plant healthy is the most important thing because healthy plants are less likely to be decimated by aphids or any plant pest. And for you in particular, it's very important to remember that everyone loses a plant sometimes. Sometimes, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you fight it, all the neem oil in the world, the plant just doesn't pull through it and it doesn't make it. That's okay. Really, it's fine. Sometimes things don't work, and that doesn't mean you're bad at plants. It's very important to have faith in yourself and to talk to yourself nicely. It's not just about having plants that grow well and healthy. You yourself also need to grow well and healthy. So while you're looking after your plants, look after yourself.